For the pan de muerto, we have to prepare a polish. For that, you will need the yeast. In my case, I will use dry yeast, water. So you have to dissolve the yeast in the water. You need to be sure it's dissolved. It is dissolved. Maybe that's going to take 1 or 2 minutes. Here I have all-purpose flour. So I'm going to add the flour to the water. Try to do this in a bowl and only mix with a spatula or a wooden spoon. Okay? You have to mix until get a sticky dough. You need to be sure it's dissolved. It is dissolved. Maybe that's going to take 1 or 2 minutes. Here I have all-purpose flour. So I'm going to add the flour to the water. Try to do this in a bowl and only mix with a spatula or a wooden spoon. Okay? You have to mix until get a sticky dough. And in this point, you are going to let rest for almost 6 hours at room temperature. Don't forget, you have to cover with plastic wrap. And I'm gonna let here for 6 hours. See you in 6 hours.
Okay, now we're going to make the pan de muerto, or it has not a translation in English. It's just, let's just call it pan de muerto. And this is one of the most traditional breads in Mexico from the festivities we have. And what we have here in the table, it's the mise en place. Everything is all right, weighted, measured and weighted. And what we have, it's flour volcano in the middle. In the flour volcano, we have added the salt and we have added the yeast that the recipe asks. Inside of the volcano, we have the sugar. Okay, we have the egg, we have the milk, we have the orange blossom essence, cinnamon, orange zest, and we have the butter, and we have here the sourdough starter that we made 6 hours before. So let's begin with the process. Okay, now what we're going to start to do is that we're going to start to add the liquids, beginning with the milk. So we're going to put the milk inside of the flour volcano to start mixing it up with the sugar we have. Okay, for this process we're gonna help ourselves with the plastic scraper. Okay, and you have to be really careful in that point, because what you need to do is to start mixing without breaking the volcano, because all the inside, all what you have inside is gonna start running out. So you gotta have you gotta take care in this process. Okay, little by little we're gonna be mixing the sugar, the flour, the milk in maybe 2 or 3 parts. As the way you see that the dough is asking for more moisture, you're gonna be adding the milk. Okay. Okay, now when we form a little dough in the middle of the flour volcano, we're going to add the starter, the polish that we made 6 hours before, and we're going to mix it up with the rest of the dough we're forming. Now you can see the texture, it's fermented. You're gonna watch some bubbles in the middle. So this is what it's going to make the dough rise. This is going to make the fermentations go. So we add it and we're gonna mix it again. So trying to preserve the volcano, we're going to continue adding the 2 egg pieces that the recipe asks for. So we're gonna put it and we're gonna start mixing again. Okay, we are now doing the ingredient incorporation. So remember, in the ingredient incorporation, it's really important that you mix up all the ingredients that are dry and liquids, and you're gonna let the fats to incorporate at last. Okay, now what we're doing after to incorporate the egg that we are putting inside the aromatic ingredients. So we're going to put the cinnamon powder and the orange zest to keep mixing this part. So in this part of the process, it's when we can add to the orange blossom essence, and we have it aside. It's not necessary so many times to weight it when you have practice, but when you don't, it's really important that you measure it. In this case, we're gonna add around 3 or 4 or 5 milliliters, because this is a very strong essence that we're going to be adding, and apart because this is an oil orange blossom essence. So when you have an oil essence, it's stronger in the aroma. So now what we're going to do is to keep mixing, and now it's the point in which we can start adding the butter, because we have a dough form, okay, and the butter it's going to make or it's going to give the moisture that the recipe needs. Now you can see the recipe, but maybe it looks a little dry, and there's something that happens in this point you gotta take care, because so many times when the beginner it's making this kind of recipes, before adding the fat, the dough could feel a little dry. And the most commonly mistake that the people do is that they start adding more and more liquid. In this case could be milk or sometimes water, and they start adding water before adding the fats. First, make sure that you have added all the ingredients, and if when you added all the ingredients you see that the recipe needs a little bit more water, you're gonna add it. Okay, don't add it before you finish adding the fats, because that could make that your dough becomes a little more moistened, and it's gonna become so hard to work. Okay, in this point we have all the ingredients incorporated. Almost. We're gonna just work a little bit to incorporate the rest of the flour, and then we'll come back. Okay, now that we have all the ingredients incorporated, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna start kneading the dough by hand. And in this point, it's really important that you remember that for you have a very good gluten activation, you need to break the dough. Meanwhile, you start breaking the dough, the gluten is going to be activated, and that is going to provide us a little bit more of elasticity that we need. In the beginning, you're gonna see that maybe the dough is gonna be a little harder, but while you're working it and when it starts resting for the initial fermentation, you're gonna see that the dough start having a little bit more of softness and of course a better texture. So what we're gonna do right now is to keep working it on the table, keep breaking it. Sometimes we have to heat the dough in the table too, and that is the kind of work that sometimes the dough needs for getting in the right texture. Okay, so we're gonna do this process for around 15 to 20 minutes sometimes to make sure that the dough is going to have the right texture we're looking for. Okay, so we're gonna keep working it, and we are going to come back when the dough is done. Okay, now the dough it's all ready. As you can see, the difference of the texture it has right now at what it had in the beginning. Now the texture is smoother, it's softer, and now what we are going to do is to proceed to make the first fermentation. Okay, one of the ways we know that the dough it's ready and it has the texture we're looking for is when you take a little piece of this and you start pulling it, and you can see the membrane test. We call it in Spanish prueba de la membrana. It's when you pull the dough and you can see a very thin layer, almost transparent, and the dough it's not getting broken. So it means that the gluten is well activated, and we're gonna have the elasticity and the texture we're looking for. And now what we're going to proceed to do is to let the dough rest until it doubles its size, and after that we're going to continue with the process. So you have to watch carefully until the dough doubles its size. Okay. Well, after around 35 to 40 minutes, the dough has doubled its size. There is a very important point that you need to consider in this part, and it's that when you're living in a place that is warm, the dough is gonna rise so fast. If you're right now living in a colder place than Cancun, probably the dough is gonna last a little longer for it gets risen for the temperature point. Because as colder it's the room temperature where you are, the yeast is going to work a little bit late. Okay, so remember, if you are in a colder place like Mexico City, maybe in the north of Mexico, you're gonna have to wait maybe 1 hour or a little bit more. But if you are in a warm place like Cancun, this is a process that can be done in around 35 to 40 minutes. Remember, you're working with a microorganism, and this microorganism, if you vary the temperature, this is going to vary the time that it's gonna be working. As much colder, this is gonna work a little slower, and meanwhile warmer, it's gonna work a little faster. Well, after this time, what we're going to do is that we're going to strike out the dough. So what we're going to do is that we're going to turn it around, okay, into the table, and with this we're going to take out all the CO2 that it was formed meanwhile the process of fermentation. Remember, in this point the yeast starts eating the sugar, and it starts producing alcohol and CO2. Okay, so as you can see, the dough it's really fluffy. Okay, and you don't have to knead the dough anymore. You only have to put it on the table and extend it a little bit for the excess of the air. It's just out of it. Okay, don't work it again because you're going to lose elasticity. That is going to be very important for the next step. Well, after striking out dough, what we're gonna do right now is to portion it. This is a very important step because now you can see the panadero con el pan. This is a very important step because in this point you're going to set the weight of the bread, and it's a really important step too, because this helps you to control a little bit more the cost of your production. So in this case, we are weighing around 75 to 80 grams each one of the balls, okay? And you have to sort the way you are weighting it, because after this step you're gonna form the bread, okay? And for this step, you need to to complete the resting of the dough, for it has elasticity. So in this point you are going to wait, and you're going to be measuring around 80 grains for each one of the pieces. Okay, now this part of the process, what we're going to do is that we're going to shape our hand like if we're doing a cave. Okay, now when we have this shape as you're watching, you're gonna take one of the bones, okay, as you see right now, and with the cave shape, okay, you're gonna start working until you have a smoother ball or smoother bone. Okay, in this point it's really important that you consider to don't be using any flour. As you can see, the table is clean, has not any flour. For if some reason once that you're working with the dough, one day you feel that the dough is sticking to your hand, don't use more flour, because what you're going to do is that you're going to make hard the bread in the end. What I recommend you to do is only to add a little bit of oil in your hands, and with this you're gonna work it a little bit easier. So remember, in this point you got to put your hand like a cave. Okay, and after this you're going to roll it, you're going to shape it until you have the bone shape. Okay, so when you're done with this, we are going to go to the next step. Well, after shaping the dough, what we're going to do is that the bones that we form, we're going to push them a little bit with the help of our palms of our hands. We're gonna just push them a little bit, and after that we're going to proceed to put what we call the bones, o los tradicionales huesitos. Okay, so what we do is that we shape them with the help of our fingers. Okay, as you can see, the chef is doing it, and the way that we are going to finish with the decoration of this bread is that we're going to take a piece of dough, and with the help of our fingers we're going to shape them, letting 4 balls connected with a thin line. Okay, we're going to see again the process. Okay, we're going to with the help of our fingers we're going to shape 4 balls. And after that we're gonna put it inside of the breads. Okay, we're gonna keep watching this process. Okay, after we finish shaping the breads, what we're gonna do is to let them rest again for around maybe 30 to 40 minutes. Remember, it will depend from the weather you are. If it's cold, it's gonna last a little longer. And after this, we're gonna put them in the oven. In this point, you gotta take care, because so many times it depends more of the site. You have to watch and learn to recognize when the bread has double its size. So don't trust on the time, just trust in your sight for when you see that the bread has double in its size. Okay, well, see you then. Okay, when the dough got fermented, they doubled its size, and after that we put it in the oven, and they were around 20 to 25 minutes. And right now we're going to put the finishes, and it consists in taking each one of those bones, okay, and we're gonna varnish them. We're gonna varnish them with butter. As you can see, the bones are still warm or hot in some of the cases, so you need to have melted butter, but with the heat of the bread it's gonna be melting good again. And after they are really well covered, we're gonna put it in the sugar for putting the last or final touch. Okay, now when we're sure that it's well covered, we take the granulated sugar, okay, and we cover it to put the final touch, okay. You gotta make sure that the sugar goes everywhere, okay, and after that you can see that the bread is done.